voice means it's a chance for Brian Hoyer conversation.
Rest in peace, Brian Hoyer. No, wait, not rest in peace. He could be starting in New England. He's still in New England, right?
I think maybe. I know Jarrett Stidham is the backup.
Stidham?
So
Yeah, maybe
so,
not.
I don't know.
Or maybe he is. If you know Brian Hoyer's whereabouts, at Beerfield FF. It is cold, it is snowy, but we're here to make your ears all warm and toasty. Welcome to Beerfield Fantasy Football. I am your host, Chris Hopper at HopBFF with 2 P's, joined by Dan Thury at ThuryBFF with 2 F's. Dan?
Hi.
Hey.
I'm good. Things are going good.
Oh, I didn't ask.
When I turned on, I know you didn't. I figured the listeners wanted to know. When I put on YouTube to get the link shared to Twitter, and I got to hear the great intro of "Is Brian Hoyer dead?" I'm not really sure. Who does he play for? I don't know, New England maybe. So I was like, this is gonna be the show.
Oh yeah, that is the show. That's been the show. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll catch you next week.
We'll see you guys on Monday next week.
See you next time. All right, we got a show for you today. Like most weeks, we're going to be talking the 2018 draft class. As always, news, shit I read on Twitter. So some dynasty lookouts. At Beerfield FF to follow the show. Beerfield Fantasy Football if you want to interact and follow along on YouTube. Like, subscribe, hit the notification button there. Show up, ask us questions, hang out. We like it when people do that. Before we get started, let's go ahead and talk about what we're drinking.
What's fueling Beerfield?
I really just wanted to rush through the intro because I feel like once we get to the Beerfield part, I can start drinking.
I've already taken a sip.
I've taken a sip or two already, but I feel like that's when we can just be like, okay, go. Let's drink. So, as I mentioned, it is cold, it is snowy, it is dreary. It's going to get down to the single digits tonight in the Midwest. So, we're warming our insides with some barrel-aged stouts. Dan, what do you got?
I got a new to our shelves at work. It's called Cherry Pie. It's from the brewery. It's part of their like dessert or their bakery series. This is a imperial stout aged in bourbon barrels with cherries, cinnamon, and natural vanilla flavors. The clock's in at 10.2%. More on my thoughts on this later on in the show.
All right, and I got a twist on an oldie but a goodie. Buckle Down released some additional variants of their barrel-aged imperial stout. So, I'm drinking the chocolate one. This one's aged on chocolate and cocoa nibs. So, bourbon barrel-aged. They also had, I believe, a peanut butter, one in vanilla, one with multiple berries and vanilla, and then just the another one of the traditional, just plain Jane barrel-aged stouts. But the regular one's fantastic. It's been on the show before, so we're putting a variant on today. All right, with that being said, we'll have a beer review about midway through the show. Let's go ahead and get into shit I read on Twitter. I don't have an actual drop, so I'm just going to pick a different one every week. Oh, but before
Colton has got a non-football question. Guys, we love
sweet,
non-football questions too. So Colton asks us, what do you guys do for a living?
You want to go first?
I'll go first. I work for a liquor chain in Springfield, Illinois. It's called Benny's. They're originally out of Chicago. My store has been open for a couple of years now. They're basically the Total Wine or whatever your main generic depot beverage store is. Wine,
the big
liquor.
Ones, not the small gas station ones or anything. The big like department store sized ones.
Yeah, and so I work for my store's beer department. So I handle all the beer ordering, the shelvings, the displays, the stacks, and stuff like that. So I am it's been doing this show, working for Benny's, especially within beer itself as a specialized job of mine. It's been an absolute blast, and I couldn't have asked for a better job. I think so. That's what I do. Chris,
Great.
why don't you tell our fine list?
What I do? All right. I work. I work IT for a multi-state utility company. So I mostly deal with the smart metering and the smart metering infrastructure. So a lot of servers, application administration, server administration. There's some network administration that goes into it, database administration. I mean, the team that I'm on is very multifaceted. It handles every aspect of the back end IT infrastructure that runs that system. So that's what I do for a living. I've been with the company for about 6 years. I've been in this current role for about the last year. For those that have been listening for a while, that's what prompted my move to St. Louis, was taking this job. So it's a ton of fun. I enjoy it a lot more than what I had been previously doing. It's what I've wanted to do since probably about the age of 12. So I'm living the American dream in the sense that I get to do something I've always wanted to do that I legitimately enjoy for a living and live comfortably off of that. So I'm very, very thrilled with my outside of this day job.
It's a little bit bittersweet for me because it stole you from me, and it stole the ability of being able to record in the same room consistently. But it's okay.
It's okay. We keep it going.
It allows me to go to St. Louis, and it just makes
like we're doing this weekend.
Yeah, like I'll be down there.
And don't let him fool you. We're only like an hour and a half away.
It's not,
I get back up there every
far.
couple weeks, so it's not like I get back up to Springfield every week or two. But yeah, thanks for the question, Colton. We love answering questions like that are kind of outside of the realm of football. And we have mentioned plenty that this isn't our day job, but I don't think that we've necessarily talked a lot about about what it is that we do outside of this. Because for those that don't know, this is a hobby for us. This is something we come home and do on the side and do for fun, and started doing so our friends didn't have to listen to us talk about football all the time.
Yep, pretty much.
All right. So, shit we saw on Twitter. Taysom Hill hype. I've seen a lot of this. Taysom Hill feels like he can be a franchise quarterback. The Saints have been using him as kind of a gadget player for a while. He's 30 years old, late graduate, so out of BYU because of the Mormon thing, the religion. I believe they do a mission. So we saw it with Austin Collie and a few others. So they typically hit the NFL at a much later age. They're typically 26 or 27 when they get into the league versus 22 or 23. So Taysom Hill is a bit older, but what are you seeing and what do you think about it?
So what prompted me to put this on here is a very specific retweet. The retweet is from Tom Downey. Tom Downey works for Chat Sports.
Okay, so
they do a lot of their stuff through through YouTube and Facebook and things like that. He tweeted out something. It was not his thoughts. This is a guy by the name of Mike Freeman for the NFL. That's all I see. At least that's the Twitter handle. His quote about Taysom Hill. Some of you may know, or some of you know how good Hill is. Some of you don't. If you're looking for the next star quarterback in the league, Hill is an excellent candidate. If he stays in New Orleans and continues to work with head coach Sean Payton, one of the smartest people in the sport, he could even ascend into Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson stratosphere. Yeah, I said it. He's that good. This dude just said that Taysom Hill could become the next Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson if he stays in New Orleans. And works with Sean Payton.
It's a tough one to judge because we know about his athleticism. We haven't seen a lot out of him as a passer. I mean, well, if he was that athleticism, sure. If he was that good as a quarterback, though, I've got to ask why. And Teddy's a good quarterback also, but if you're saying that Taysom Hill can be at that level, why is Teddy Bridgewater the backup when Drew Brees misses multiple weeks and not Taysom Hill?
Why did Taysom Hill throw one pass?
Right.
When Brees was injured.
Yeah, and that's kind of the part that I don't get, right? We've seen a lot of Taysom Hill, the athlete, and we know Taysom Hill's a good athlete. But there's a reason they felt like they needed to bring in Teddy Bridgewater. They did bring in Teddy Bridgewater, and there's a reason that Teddy Bridgewater was getting starts over Taysom Hill when Drew Brees was injured. And it's because as an athlete and a football player, I think Taysom Hill is really, really good.
Yeah,
is an
I agree
elite
with
quarterback in the league. I don't see that happening. And I don't think that Sean Payton sees that happening either, because, I mean, let's face it, it didn't. And there was a chance to see what you really had in Taysom Hill. And if you were that comfortable with him, you don't play Teddy Bridgewater in that scenario.
And I can't realistically see an offense trying, like, he's basically he's kind of like a worse Tim Tebow, where very athletic, I think Taste is more athletic than what
he is
than what Tim Tebow was, but he has terrible mechanics. He's not a very good passer. But he's a strong runner. He's strong after the catch. And what Taysom Hill does provide you, like you said before, he's like he's a great NFL player. He's a headache for fucking fantasy.
He is.
Like he is the new John Kuhn. And as Colton just said, they may be trying to up his trade value. I've seen that too.
Yeah.
I've seen them trying to rise his trade value too.
Absolutely right. They could be hyping up that trade value and trying to get rid of him. But yeah, I just, not to say that it couldn't happen, because again, we haven't seen a lot of him at a passer. So I got to lean on what we do know. And what we do know is we haven't seen a lot of him as a passer, and it's not because there hasn't been the opportunity to get him in that sense to a regular season game or even in the preseason. He's still operating as a third string.
Yeah, I mean, so what he did in college, when he was in his mid-20s against 18, 19, 20-year-olds, his senior year, 12 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 6.2 yards per attempt.
That's not great.
Like, that's pretty fucking bad.
That doesn't register on an NFL success baseline, and believe me, I've been staring at it for weeks now. I finally have my film list together.
Yeah, it's if he was coming into the league this year, he wouldn't get drafted.
He wouldn't have been
trying to make him into a tight end or whatever, what the Saints have done.
He wouldn't even been watched in my first round of film. He would have had to kill the combine for that.
Yeah, and I'm sure he would have, but
I'm sure he would have too.
I wanted to have some fun with this Taysom Hill hype that's been floating around Twitter here.
Yeah. All right, on a little more ridiculous level.
I
I've seen it on Instagram. I've seen it on Facebook. I've seen it on Twitter. The notion that the winner of the XFL should play the worst team in the NFL, with the loser staying and or being demoted to the XFL. So basically, the XFL team wins, they get promoted to the NFL. The lowest team gets demoted to the XFL. Now, all business impossibilities of that aside, because this is like the 8-year-old what if scenario. Dan, did you get to see any of the XFL?
I've seen highlights. I didn't go back and watch any or grind any, film or anything like that. So I didn't get a chance.
No. So I watched the Battlehawks game. I'm a season ticket holder.
Yes.
So I watched it on TV because they were in Dallas. So some of the highlights. The quality of play actually was pretty good. Now, do I think that even the starters on the worst team in the NFL are going to get beat by the best team in the XFL? Not a chance. It's kind of like the argument that, LSU could or Alabama could beat the Dolphins or the Redskins or whatever NFL team you want to throw out there. Look, the best team in a lower league like that, not likely to beat an NFL caliber team. It's just one of those things that there's a reason the NFL is the NFL, college is college, and the XFL is now the XFL. Now, a few years down the road, maybe. That's not to say anything bad about the XFL. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. The notion that Pat McAfee can walk up next to somebody and interview them right after they screw up a Marquette King punt that landed at the half-inch line and would have died there, but the guy knocked it into the end zone. Fantastic.
Yeah, I felt bad for Marquette King. That had to be one of the best punts ever, like of all
time. And McAfee's reaction was absolutely perfect. the fact that you can hear the replay officials, hear the play calls and everything. Look, they're doing a lot of good things there. Love the pace of play. So I thought it was a good bridge to talk about the XFL. But this idea, as fun as it would be to see, right now today, I don't know about you, but I don't think there's any way that plays out as even close to competitive.
There's no way. I mean, I can't even fathom how they would draw it up like under contract to make it actually work. And just like it almost be like it would be like a pseudo 33rd team to the league. I mean, you know, some of these players have actually played in the NFL that are playing with these XFL teams. Obviously, we know that, or they're, you know, they're college players that kind of didn't get their chance in the NFL. So it's not like these guys are horrible, you know, are horrible athletes. But even if you put them up against the worst team this year, which was the Bengals, the Bengals have. I think Joe Mixon alone could beat him.
I think Joe Mixon alone could beat him too, let alone Andy Dalton. Now, if they put Ryan Finley at quarterback, they might have a chance. But, you know,
all they got to do is hand the ball off to Joe Mixon and just put the ball in John Ross's hands.
Right, because, I mean,
short slant. Yeah.
We're talking about, I mean, look, there's some quality players. Will Hill was who had the game-sealing pickoff for St. Louis, was a fantastic NFL defensive back. Christian Michael had his heyday, but he's trying to extend his career. We saw some good stuff out of Matt Jones. PJ Walker is taking internet by storm. Jordan Teamu.
Matt Jones played?
Matt Jones is a St. Louis running back. He got more carries than Michael did.
Matt Jones.
Yep.
I remember when Matt Jones used to be a thing.
I do too.
It was a good day. All the fumbles aside.
So I'm happy he's there. I mean, there's some good names and some good players, but I mean, we're talking guys like, though, Jazz Ferguson's a starting wide receiver in the league, which, by the way, is, from my estimation, where the league appeared to be lacking. It wasn't the defense, it wasn't the quarterback play, it wasn't the running back play. The wide receivers can't fucking separate from what I saw.
And Jazz is a fucking big dude.
Jazz is 6'5".
He's fucking big. Like, he shouldn't even have to separate. All you got to do is box out.
Right. But he's 6'5", and, you know, didn't make it in the NFL. And Jordan Teamu was a good college quarterback. Didn't stick in the NFL. Taylor Heineke. Saw him have some success with the Panthers. Didn't stick. Nick Fitzgerald. Thought he was all right coming out of college. These are the guys that in college we think could be a thing in the NFL. Don't stick. Go elsewhere to get their chance. And, I mean, look, there's been plenty of startup leagues. The original XFL only produced Rod Smart that hung around in the NFL. The AAF, I don't know that really anybody outside of kickers is stuck. So just that notion that could be a thing isn't there right now. Now, that being said, the XFL's fucking fun.
Good.
So, we'll maybe catch a Battlehawks game right here.
Yeah.
So,
definitely.
Oh, we'll talk about that after the show. All right, on to the news.
News.
I took the drop out, but if we were still doing LOL, this would qualify. Jameis Winston underwent LASIK surgery to repair his vision. This is after throwing 30 picks. He did this on his own. Is not mandated by the Bucs. Jameis reportedly has refused to wear contacts since his Florida State days. And it led to Bruce Arians to remark, well, he can see the guys right in front of him, but he can't even read the scoreboard because he's severely nearsighted. So, gunslinger that's nearsighted, maybe that's going to help some of those interceptions.
The fact that he threw 30 touchdowns, over 30 touchdowns. I mean,
in 5,000 plus yards.
That's like the fact that we could see Jameis potentially post like a 40 touchdown and like 12 interception season. I'm just saying.
Hey, if vision helps. If you're nearsighted and everything's blurry, like, look, we both have shit vision.
I can't see shit in, like, outside of like I couldn't see the camera if I didn't have my contacts or glasses on.
Yeah, I'm nearsighted in one eye, farsighted in the other, half blind in my left eye, and have very, very poor depth perception. So, yeah, I get it. This is going to help, and get ready for another season of Jameis Winston hype from me, and you're going to be tired of the LASIK narrative because Lord knows I'm going to make it.
I I'm all here for Winston. I hope he starts off the year like 6-7 touchdowns, no picks, and people are like, "What the fuck? Why didn't he get LASIK?" Like,
Why didn't he get LASIK
I've been
5
putting off
years
getting
ago?
LASIK for a long time too.
I've
I
never
actually
even
wanna get
consulted
it.
about it.
Yeah.
But
So
I just need new glasses and it's hell.
I cannot wait for the LASIK narrative. I really hope to keep Winston. I really hope this Philip Rivers bullshit isn't going to actually happen.
No, I hope not either. But Jameis is free agent too. So
yeah,
go to Chicago, Jameis.
Mixed feelings.
Yeah, I'd love it.
I know you would.
I'd be the first person buying that jersey. All right, from the rumor mill. The Eagles are eyeing soon-to-be free agent Demarcus Robinson. Again, these are all rumors, various reporters or whatever.
I've heard like 3 or 4 teams. I'll link to that too.
Hey, Demarcus Robinson is flashed. I mean, I don't know that he's going to go to another team and be a superstar, but he definitely could be a piece if he gets a chance, kind of a la Taylor Gabriel. So, Robinson's flashed good things.
Yeah.
Falcons are weighing the idea of moving on from running back Devonta Freeman. I don't know. This is a confusing one for me, right? Because Freeman signed to a relatively affordable deal, if I remember right.
I'm looking it up now.
He didn't have a great season.
He was hurt for majority of it.
He was also hurt for part of it. Ito Smith was
part of it.
Banged up and wasn't exactly good either. So if you don't retain Devonta Freeman, you're either entering free agency where you're likely going to overpay for a back, or you're drafting one. And they have holes, particularly on defense, that need to be filled outside of cutting Devonta Freeman. I don't think, unless it's a pure money-saving move, Devonta Freeman is your only viable running back gets cut. Because damn sure ain't Ito Smith or Brian Hill.
So if he gets cut, they save about $500,000.
What's his cap hit?
His dead cap is $6 million. Right now it'd be 6.5 if they kept him on.
There's no reason to cut him.
Outside in the next year, I think they would eat $3 million next year in dead cap if they cut him.
There's no reason to cut him.
It'll all be based around, I guess. I'm sorry, it wouldn't be that much. It would save. I think they changed how this rolled, but they save about $3 million
if they cut him now.
$3 million. His cap hit would be 9.5, and the dead cap would be $6 million.
There's no reason. You say to save $3 million, and you're going to put yourself without a viable running back option. There's just no reason to do it.
I mean, it depends if they're okay with eating
$3 million.
Cap hit. I think what we've seen nowadays is I think teams are becoming more comfortable eating these dead caps. I mean, shit, we saw the Steelers, ship away Antonio Brown eating $21 million in dead cap. I think.
Well, for one season, and I don't know. I just think the Steelers shipped off Antonio Brown because one, he was a cancer, and two,
well, I know. I'm just saying
there was
more.
There was more to it though, and you
Sure.
also had what appeared to be a viable one in Juju with a viable 2 in Washington, so you can afford to get rid of that. It's not like there's anybody barking at Devonta Freeman's touches. So
it depends if they decide to. I mean, this is a running back. This is a fairly, I guess, quote unquote deep running back class.
It's about
with next year also looking
6 or so deep, but you also have free agents. So
I don't know. I'm not saying it's like.
But are you going to go out and overpay a Derrick Henry or a Melvin Gordon?
Oh God, I think they would keep you. I honestly think they would roll out, Smith, Olsen, and Hill, and maybe bring in another rookie or bring in a cheap veteran, and just
if they do that, Matt Ryan's quarterback 5 next year.
I mean, the Falcons led the league in passing plays passing attempts per game, so they're already not far off from that. It's not like Devonta Freeman. I mean, he was good in times last year, but he's obviously not the same type of running back. I think they just want to get out of this contract more so.
So fix the freaking line then, instead of spending resources to go pay a running back or draft one.
I mean, I'm always against paying heavily for a running back to begin
when
with.
Your entire running game doesn't do well. You can't just look. This is the counter argument to running backs don't matter. Or not the counter argument to running backs don't matter. It is the argument to running backs don't matter. If the argument is that the running back you have running behind your offensive line doesn't make a difference because an offensive line can make any running back look good, looking at you, Devin Singletary, then the counter argument has to be, okay, Devonta Freeman didn't perform, so do you blame the running back if you're saying running back talent doesn't matter? Or do you blame the offensive line? I blame the offensive line when a running back doesn't perform because a good offensive line can mask a bad running back. We've seen it time and time again.
I mean, you can look at also just blocking scheme and the way that he used it. I mean, I don't think it's the talent alone. I just think it's the contract. I honestly don't think it's like we may say it's dumb because they're going to eat $9 million cap, in dead cap over 2 years, or they're going to eat a lot more if they decide to keep him. I think that's the narrative.
From what you said, though, it wasn't a lot more.
Well, they're going to. I mean, they would save $3.5 million.
I'm looking at it
this year. They would take a 9.5 cap hit if they keep them. If they cut them, it'd be $6 million. So next year it'd be 9.25 in cap hit, or with a $3 million dead cap. So I think
so. The out after this year, $22 million left on the deal, $6 million in dead cap. $3 million of that's a signing bonus. So
that's already that'd be already.
That goes to the cap number. The base salary is only $3.7 million. It's 6.5 million next year, 6.2 the rest of the way. But you're not going to get somebody in free agency cheaper than that. So the only thing you're going to do is draft somebody, and that's not going to solve your problems. So,
well, I mean, I think for me, I think it's them like saying, hey, well, let's fix our offensive line, try to save some money, and not have to overpay for an aging running back, and that's where, like, I don't think there's anything to do with his talent wise. I think he's still a very talented running back. I think it's just a contract with them trying to use that money elsewhere.
So it's $3 million it's basically a $3 million difference this year, or a $6.2 million difference next year. Cut him next year.
Yeah, I don't know.
It makes more sense.
Spent a lot of time.
You're only going to save $3.5 million by cutting him this season.
Who knows if they cut him?
Yeah. I don't think
we'll come back to this if they do.
If they do, I'm going to chastise them. The Colorado Buffaloes are expected to reach out to Chiefs offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy.
Bieniemy?
Whatever. Anyway,
sure.
I don't think he leaves the Chiefs for the Colorado Buffaloes. Chargers GM Tom Telesco says they like their internal options to replace Phillip Rivers. So this is a Tyrod Taylor thing again, unless you're an Easton Stick believer. We personally liked Easton Stick a little bit. And it was like, we liked Easton Stick and Gardner Minshew, I think, were in the same tier for us.
Well, no, I'm not scoffing at that. I
wasn't either. I'm scoffing at another Tyrod Taylor experiment.
I mean, he's the bridge to maybe they're the one that tries to reach up and take Tua. I don't think they're gonna spend up. I don't think they have enough.
Maybe they go get Jalen Hurts or somebody.
Yeah.
We'll see. Jalen Hurts, by the way, profiles decently. I like him more than Love, I think, based on numbers. I haven't watched tape yet.
I'll have to look. I haven't looked deep into anybody outside of
Jalen Hurts' numbers project well. I'll tell you that when compared against the baseline of success.
Okay.
So, all right. Panthers owner David Tepper said Cam Newton's future with the team will depend on his health. We already kind of knew that, but just confirming. Yeah. The Redskins' new coaching staff is operating with Dwayne Haskins as a clear-cut starter. This kind of contradicts the whole Alex Smith will be in the competition mix if he's healthy. I think it's the right call.
I think that was just trying to be nice.
Yeah.
Like his injury, like his comeback would be incredible.
Yeah. I think operating as Haskins as a starter is the right call. We say it all the time with young quarterbacks. You got to know it's a rebuilding team. Figure it out while you're still rebuilding the other parts of your team instead of having a good team around somebody and the quarterback not be it. Looking at you, Chicago.
I was going to say Bears. Vikings.
Yeah.
Anyways.
49ers tight end Garrett Selleck announced his retirement after 8 seasons in the NFL, mostly a blocking tight end. Panthers re-signed kicker Joey Slido a 1-year contract. Eric Weddle announced his retirement after 13 seasons, and man, was he fun to watch.
Huge fan. Always loved Weddle. Always loved the beard.
Yep. And then Eric Weddle, Charger stalwart for a long time, multiple-time All-Pro, and then Ravens and the Rams most recently. And the Titans are going to operate without a defensive coordinator for 2020, so Mike Vrabel will be calling plays.
I still like the Titans.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
Good move on, Bravel. All right, let's go ahead and start some lookbacks here.
Beer Fueled Lookback.
Production meeting. You made the notes on this section. Do you want
no,
to?
I'm fully gonna do it. Yeah, I got it.
Okay, cool.
All right. Like last week, or like 2 when we did the 19 look back, we're gonna look back at the 18 class. Those of you new to here, we do these with the 3 most recent rookie classes, which means the first class we ever looked at, 17, will be our last, and we have a couple more here with the 18. Lamar Jackson. All right, so I generally break these down in tiers for those of you that are new to this, to try to develop talking points. This is based on Fantasy Pros' dynasty rankings, just to kind of give us that. Normally, I would have Lamar Jackson in his own talking tier, but I think when we talk about the QBs that have at least performed well in this class, I want to group them together. But we're going to start with Lamar Jackson. Right now, he's the QB2. What we just saw from 136 passing touchdowns, 7 rushing touchdowns, to 36 led the league. 9% touchdown rate. Just did it on an insane efficiency. If you were to average out his rushing floor, just shy of 1,000 yards and 6 touchdowns, his floor itself probably makes him a top 5 to 6 quarterback. My question for you is does he belong in the top 3?
Let's see. Mahomes.
So right now, the top 3, obviously, Mahomes, Jackson, Watson, and then 4 Wilson, 5 Prescott, 6 Murray, 7 Wentz. It looks like Josh Allen and Baker both rose since I did the notes on Monday, so they're 8 and 9 now. But and then Rodgers is your 10. So that's your top 10: Mahomes, Jackson, Watson, Wilson, Prescott, Murray, Wentz, Allen, Mayfield, and Rodgers.
As much as I'm having to struggle to find somebody I would put right now ahead of Lamar Jackson, yes, I think Lamar Jackson's top 3 right now. We know the rushing upside. There are questions about durability. We've seen for a season and a half now where he's been able to endure it. He avoids hits. I thought he progressed enough as a passer last season. He needs to continue to do that. But if you're playing upside on a guy that's had 1 full season as a starter, and just came off of an MVP season, look, we've seen him struggle, but for fantasy purposes, the rushing floor is something that's hard to ignore. It's like having a high-end quarterback 2 and a running back 2 combined into one player right now.
Yeah, it's insane.
And it's worth an insane amount of points, and I think he can get even better as a passer, especially if he can get better at throwing on the move, not just in the pocket, and really put all of those traits together, which, given the progressions he's made, I have no reason to think he hasn't done it. They built the offense around him. Yes, Lamar Jackson is a top 3 quarterback in Dynasty.
Okay. Side question, not to dive into it too much. Does he belong in the same tier with Patrick Mahomes?
No,
I don't agree either. All right. Moving on. Josh Allen, Baker Mayfield. I wanted to combine these guys together because I think it's a really fun talking point. You have Baker Mayfield, who's one of the most talked about, like, a quarterback to come in 2018. He was the QB1 for most people. He was our QB1. Film grinders loved them. Analytics guys loved them. And then you get the exact opposite in Josh Allen. Like, it was the first time in my short time with Twitter, with fantasy football Twitter and more dynasty Twitter, that I saw one rookie get shit on constantly. It was, his own hashtag, never Josh Allen. All this, that, and the other. And granted, his passing hasn't, it's improved, but it hasn't, drastically improved. But he's been a fantasy stud. He was the QB6 last year. He generally only trailed Lamar Jackson in all the major rushing categories outside of he led all quarterbacks in rushing touchdowns with 9. But he didn't have a game over 300 passing yards. He only had 1 game with 3 or more touchdowns and just a handful more of games with multiple touchdowns. So obviously the passing numbers weren't there to kind of help them get even higher, but still finishes a QB6, great floor to him. And then with Baker Mayfield, I'll get your thoughts on these guys when I'm done here. I'm going to just Just quickly touch on Mayfield here. Obviously, not the season that you wanted. 22 touchdowns, 21 picks. Everybody from from the owner to the GM to the coaching staff to the players itself really underperformed outside of a handful of players. It just kind of just collapsed underneath the weight of it all. But Baker obviously still has his upside to it. 4th and when he throws, 7th and deep ball, 10th. He's a gunslinger. He's going to have these type of high interception rate. You just hope that the touchdown rate can go up. First off, do you agree that Josh Allen and Baker Mayfield should be top 10 quarterbacks in Dynasty?
Let me put it this way.
Okay.
If you have them in the back end of your top 10, especially at 8 and 9, can't really argue with that. It all depends on your perception. Okay. If you have them in the high teens, or, the 11 to 12, 13, 14, somewhere in there, I probably can't argue with that too much either. You mentioned it with Josh Allen. We need to see more out of the passing game progression. It was kind of the opposite of what you got out of Lamar Jackson. We know the rushing floor is there. The Bills are a run-first team. He's on a run-first team with a good defense. He doesn't have to throw a whole lot.
Yep.
And that shows. And that shows in his numbers. Now, he, like you said, massive improvement in touchdown interception rate. That's good. That shows progression there. But you need to see the scheme fit. And to me, if he is your dynasty quarterback, he's somebody that you still have to, consider having somebody else on your roster with that you can rotate around based on the better matchup right now, knowing that there's more upside there. And as for Baker Mayfield, I mean, he's at a point where it could go one of two ways.
Yeah.
Depending on next season. He could go straight into bust territory if he can't turn it around, or he can right the shift and completely get that hype back behind him. And it just depends on which way it goes. And, there's been some reports on him about, weight and things like that, potentially. And, he just looks rough and not necessarily dedicated to it. So, it's a little tough for me to argue against the talent of either guy. I do agree with Allen being ahead of Mayfield at this point. And I think Darnold's in this conversation with these two as well.
Yeah.
But, I think there's a little more insulation to Allen's value than there is to Mayfield because, if next season doesn't go well for Mayfield, the sky's falling, the bottom's out of it.
Especially with Cleveland, they're just like Baker. Look, he's got to be the first quarterback that's going to start 3 seasons in a row for them.
He is.
And I'm a Mayfield lover. If you've been listening to the show long enough, you know Baker Mayfield. I got a jersey during his rookie season as a Ravens fan. I absolutely love Baker. I'm one of his biggest stands, and I personally would still take him over Josh Allen, but they're so close, and I would never argue against taking Allen over Baker, especially at this point. I just believe with the Stefanski hiring and with the expectations almost being completely gone, that we're going to see what we've seen from Baker throughout his football career, just dating back to college, where everyone doubts him and he proves everybody wrong.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not doubting Baker yet.
Oh no, of course, I'm not saying you are. I'm not saying you are.
I think that he does have more upside than Allen. I think Darnold even potentially has more upside than Allen.
No,
I think out of the 3 of them, Allen has the most insulated value right now.
He does. He's basically a combination of Blake Bortles and Cam Newton. We want to see, his passing volume, or not volume, but we want to see the passing efficiency continue to get better. We want to see Buffalo continue to put pieces around him. That's the biggest thing, is that
they need somebody else.
He doesn't have. He has John Brown.
And that's kind of it. Cole Beasley. Dawson Knox is a good young player, but he's a tight end, and you see it in breakout age and everything else. Tight ends just take longer to develop.
Yeah,
Dawson Knox is a good young player that could become a viable tight end. I think Dawson Knox has a chance to follow an Austin Hooper type of progression in this league and maybe become the option too. But you've got Devin Singletary, who can he run through a hole, but.
He's like Ronald Jones.
Yeah.
Like everyone's like, oh God, he looks so good. I was like, because he's got granted, he didn't have. I think he ranked 17th in efficiency run blocking, so it's not like he had perfect run blocking, but
It was good.
He was good enough for him to like. I'm not saying let's all shit on Devin Singletary all the time.
No,
because he proved us wrong a little bit.
I'm not either. You're gonna have to consider the fact that he's behind a good offensive line, which you have to consider for every running back.
He's a sell.
He is, but he can run through a hole. And then you've got John Brown and Dawson Knox, who could be something good. Other than that, you don't have anything behind him. I think they need to add another wide receiver to kind of let Dawson Knox develop, and that'll help elevate Josh Allen. Yeah. He also needs the defense to get a little worse.
I mean, yeah. I mean, like he threw 461 passes. At a 4.3 touchdown percentage. I think what we saw from him this year, in terms of at least his touchdown percentage and rate and what I kind of expect from his passing attempts, this is probably his floor.
Yeah.
Like I think this is I think when he finishes his career, it'll be a low 4 touchdown rate, probably averaging between 475 and 500 ish. Obviously, I can't predict that based on the.
I mean, 500 pass attempts, below 500 pass attempts in today's NFL is really low. You figure 600 is kind of the elite number to where you can say, yeah, if a guy throws 600 plus times, he's going to be good. 550 is pretty much if you're a passing quarterback, or you have to be top 12 from a volume standpoint.
Or you have Lamar Jackson and
pocket,
Josh Allen.
Pocket quarterback. So
of course.
The rushing floor helps him a lot.
It does. All right, so let's bring in Sam Darnold here. QB 15 right now in Dynasty. He battled mono early on. He missed a couple more games with a foot injury. He's always shown some upside, and then he'll put stretches together where you kind of just okay, he's young, he's still learning. The dude's not even 23 years old yet. He'll be 23 when the season starts. I have a little bit more reserve concerns for him. The back-to-back kind of mess seasons, you can obviously blame injury and mono and sickness. The coaching staff, I think, is a bit to blame. He shouts out praise to Adam Gase, which I don't understand how you could do it. They're losing playmakers left and right. Who knows if Le'Veon Bell is going to be there next year. Robbie Anderson is of course on its way out. Chris Herndon, suspended and hurt. We love Jamison Crowder, but he's not a piece I think you want to build around for the future for that receiving core. So that's where my concern is. I don't know. How do you feel about Sam Darnold right now?
So I don't think it's as make or break for him as it is for Baker, which also comes with expectations, right?
Sure. Yes.
Baker's are way higher. So obviously it's going to feel more make or break for him. I think you can kind of give Darnold a pass. And the other problem is that Baker doesn't really have a pass on last year, unless you consider Freddie Kitchens an end-all be-all pass. But
I think he took on more than he needed. I think his issues were really amplified just by all those commercials he was on for State Farm and just how kind of flamed out the entire Browns. I think he deserves blame, but I think he got a lot more than what he
I mean, there's a difference between media pressure and mono, though. Which anybody that's ever had mono, Darnold came back real quick from that. That'll zap your strength. He dealt with the foot injury as well. I think you get more of a pass for a bout of mono and a foot injury than you do from, the expectations were too much in the NFL. Sure. Again, just 23 years old. We expected a breakout year last season, really from Darnold and Chris Herndon. And both were bit by the injury bug and plagued by that. So I think that you want to see improvement for Darnold after what is mostly a lost season. He is under Adam Gase as well. So, I mean, you got two guys and him and Baker with bad coaching. And, I just think that there's more of a reason that Darnold didn't improve than what there was for Baker's regression. And that's the other thing that's important to note is that Darnold didn't regress necessarily.
No, he actually improved
a bit.
He improved 4% on his completion percentage, 0.2 on his touchdown rate. Almost a point lower on his interception rate. So there was definitely improvement. Same yards per attempt.
Yeah.
So, but they also added, Bell. We expected that breakout, as you said, from Herndon. We all expected more.
We expected more out of the offense as a whole, just like we did out of
that they did okay
out of Cleveland. But with Freddie Kitchens, we didn't really know. With Adam Gase, we kind of knew what we were getting. So I think that made it a lot less shocking when they didn't perform. You had Bell, who people expected a lot of, but he had a year off. You didn't have the wide receiver core around him, and then Chris Herndon, who was supposed to have a breakout year, got hurt. Suspended and then hurt. So, it's just a lost season for the Jets. So I think Darnold gets a bit more of a pass. I think he's a good buy low candidate.
I'm fine with it in super flex. I try not to get too caught up in single QBs much, but I definitely agree with Sam Darnold as that. Let's see where the owner feels about Sam Darnold after 2 seasons.
I own Sam Darnold in the Dynasty League, and I'm still more than happy about it.
No, I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm saying in terms of me trying to go after a quarterback in a single QB league. That's not how I operate.
Yeah, and super
flex is completely different. So
yeah,
unless let's move on.
Somehow desperately need a quarterback in single QB, in which case you really need to look in the mirror your management style.
That or you're like me and you're trying to make a run and it blows up in your face. But mine was because I lost Andrew Luck. Let's move on here. Let's move on to the last tier of guys that we shouldn't spend any time on. I'm just going to read them out for more fun's sake. Josh Rosen, QB 35, Mason Rudolph, QB 42, Kyle Allen, QB 44. Do we want to say any parting words for these guys?
Sell if you can. Cut. Don't worry about cutting them if you need the roster spots, especially in single quarterback.
None of them need to be rostered in single QB.
None of them. I can make the argument none of them need to be rostered in super flex.
I will not. I don't need the roster Rudolph or Allen. Rosen. We'll see. I think there's going to be a team out there that may try to give him a chance. I know, like he's granted he terrible with Miami Fitz. Obviously, did a lot better with the same type of weapons around him. I just feel like top 10 quarterback potential. I don't know. We weren't high on him. I was higher than you guys. Speaking of you and Nick on it, but
the problem with Rosen is he's never going to succeed in a rebuild because he can't throw under pressure and he can't throw when there's not a line in front of him. He can't throw when he doesn't have a pocket. We saw it in college, and everything completely breaks down when he doesn't have a pocket to throw from and he's under duress. And he's never going to survive in a rebuild like that. He's somehow going to have to show enough to be considered a bridge quarterback at some point in his career to have any form of success, because or somehow land on a team in a quarterback battle with a good offensive line, because with Miami and with Arizona that wasn't the case and he didn't succeed. And that's what we were worried about in college, is that this guy cannot perform when the rush is on him or when he doesn't have blocking up front, and he hasn't.
Yeah. Like I said, I can see him getting a backup job, and then there could be value through injury or, like you said, through competition. But yeah, so that's the quarterbacks. I don't want to spend any more time on them. They've already deserved more breadth than what we gave them. Well, let's move on to the running backs here. A lot more talking points here. Really, an 8 running back, deep class that outside of Chubb and Barkley and some flashes from Johnson and I guess Michelle, really underwhelmed. I mean, this was when you started your 18 draft, the first 8 picks were generally all running backs. Mm-hmm. Sprinkling DJ Moore late, and maybe a Cortland Sutton or somebody reached on Baker. 8 backs, and we expected more from it. Obviously the elite tier: Saquon Barkley RB2, Nick Chubb RB6. Not much needs to be said about Barkley. It's him and CMC for me in the top 2 tier. Do you agree?
The only thing I'll say about Barkley, high ankle sprain, came back in 2 weeks. If you're worried about the down year, don't be. We've seen that completely zap any form of explosiveness and agility out of good running backs. So I'm not worried about him at all, and really, I'm not worried about Nick Chubb at all either, for any reason.
If you're concerned about Barkley, let me weeks 15, 16, 17, 30 points, 44 points, and 20.7.
Yeah, he got healthy.
Yeah, he got fucking healthy. As for Nick Chubb, I don't have any concerns. I think maybe RB6 to me seems a bit high, but we're really splitting hairs in terms of trying to rank these running backs within that whole spectrum. You know, you throw in guys like Delvin Cook, Joe Mixon, Leonard Fournette, maybe Kamara. They're like, you can rank them in any sort of order, and I wouldn't hate you for it. So I'm fine with the RB6. For those of you that may have questions about Kareem Hunt, what he could take away, Nick Chubb had 4 games over 20 carries when Kareem Hunt came back over. He had 4 games over 100 yards, and 2 more of those games he had over 90 yards. He was the RB14 when Hunt returned, but again, really an offense that completely tanked. This was the second half of the year. I expect Cleveland to bounce back and Chubb to potentially be up there with the leading rushing touchdown leader. Do you have the same feelings about Nick Chubb?
Yeah, I do. I think if Kareem Hunt's there, you have to kind of temper expectations a little bit. But
sure,
even if I'm still comfortable being a Nick Chubb owner, at worst he's your second running back, at best he's your lead back, and you're happy about that. Yep. He's going to perform. Right. He's going to give you startable weeks.
Yeah, and like I said, he was one of the few bright spots. He had over 1,000 yards. I think he had over 1,200. I think he was the AFC rushing leader.
Yep.
Outside of Derrick Henry.
You plug it in and you don't worry about it with Nick Chubb.
Yeah, he's fine. So we'll move on to kind of more of the talking points of this RB class here, and that's the middle tier. I did kind of break up Philip Lindsay and Royce. So we can talk about them and on their own with the Broncos, but we'll talk about Kerryon Johnson, Darius Guice, Sony Michel, Rashad Penny. This is kind of the they've showed something or have been hurt or have had just bad luck with everything. Kerryon Johnson as the RB15, Darius Guice is RB27, Michelle is the RB30, Penny is the RB32. Philip Lindsay would be in here as RB23, but like I said, we'll talk about him with Rice. My only kind of thing that stuck out in terms of ranking is Kerryon Johnson as an RB15. That just feels high for me. I don't know how do you feel about Kerryon Johnson as RB15 in Dynasty?
That there's so much uncertainty around the running back position that this is the best you can do when you get down into that tier of 15 or so. I mean, you look, there's 3 backs that you can make an argument for being ahead of Kerryon out of last year's draft class. And, just off the top of my head, Kerryon at 15 is fine because that might be the highest you can put him. But I don't think you can put him much lower than, 18 or 19 either, based on what you've seen. Like you said, he missed in your notes. He's missed 14 games over the last 2 seasons. He's been in the league for 2 years, and he's missed damn near a full season out of that. We always knew in the draft that we loved Kerryon's talent, and that if he was healthy, he was going to perform. But he always had the soft tissue type of injuries where he could not stay healthy. And that was college too. And it was something when we were doing the draft prep, we said, be wary of this. He's a very talented running back, but be wary of the injuries. And it's continued into the NFL. As far as a get out while you still can, yeah, basically, make him somebody else's headache. Because if you got a guy that's on and off the injury report, on and off IR, it's just going to be difficult to own him. And he might stay healthy a full season and put it all together. But, more often than not, I think this is what you're going to get, is a talented guy when he can play. But I think it's going to be more of a headache trying to figure out when he can play or what to do. So if he's on your roster, you should probably have 2 other viable options at least. And you're better off, when he comes back healthy, sell high on him, sell when the hype picks up, and make him somebody else's headache. Just get yourself equal value.
Yeah, like, I completely agree. He needs to be your RB3. If you're a team trying to contend, he needs to be an RB3. If you're in a retool or rebuild, you need to be trying to move him for a first either this year or next year. My concern is the drop in efficiency when he was healthy. He was one of the better running backs in 2018 in terms of that efficiency. 6 and 2 yards per carry. He had 5.7 yards per touch. He was 13th in breakaway run rate, which was I think it was 7.6, which is really good. And then you look at this year, 3.5 true yards per carry rate. He was 52nd in breakaway run rate and 29th in juke rate at just 4.3 yards per touch. It also includes his pass catching, which is what he's supposed to be really good at. He's the bigger size, a bigger size satellite back. That concerns me. I mean, obviously the dip in offensive line production hurts him there, but Detroit always seems to have this we're almost there offense where we can we're on the brink of being elite, and it's a good breath of fresh air to see what Kerryon did in his rookie season. To see that drop in efficiency raises a little bit of concerns, but again, I'm waiting for that high window. We'll move on here though. Darius Geis, there's not a whole lot that needs to be said. He's missed 27 games out of 32 that he could play. He's flashed in a couple. His only true benefit is that he's on a rebuilding Washington team that is in no short of, I guess, urgency to try to replace him. I will not be surprised if they obviously bring more people in. They only have AP and Jordan Love on the roster, including him, and Peterson is a team option, which they can just let go whenever they want, or which they can make that decision on in about 13 days.
So there was a rumor today that they're picking that up.
Okay,
so
which is smart, because obviously you can't trust two oft-injured running backs on your roster, going in the free agency or the draft.
Well, and Love's efficiency tanked in his senior season anyway.
Yeah, I mean, with Love, it's you were hoping he could become
what he was as junior,
of a Chris Thompson, or like a Gio Bernard, where he's not quite big enough to be a full-time running back, but can give you enough as a satellite or change the pace back.
So at Darius, guys, I'll make this quick.
Okay,
he's a draft low and startup, buy low type of player, and if you have him, don't sell him yet, because he's gonna not miss every game of his career, right? He's gonna put together a game or two or three or four or whatever where he looks really, really good because the talent's there.
Yeah.
And then if you really want out of it, if you really don't believe in it, you sell high on him then. At this point, he's a definite hold for me. I'm not going to recommend you go out there and buy low unless you're a rebuilding team that has excess draft picks and needs a dart throw. He's still probably worth the second rounder, given the talent that's there. He was a top 3 running back pick not even 2 years ago. So, given the talent that's there, he's probably worth a second rounder or a third rounder plus, maybe a dart throw player to the other team. And you see how it can go. And so that's just kind of my take on it. He's a good gamble for a rebuilding team. If you own him and you're frustrated with them, wait for the sell window. It's not here right now. And, in redraft, or if you're doing a startup, go ahead and get him cheap. Because it's given where his value has been, it's a low risk, high reward type of pick.
He could end up being like Marshawn Lynch, where injuries plagued the beginning of Lynch's career, especially coming into the draft where I think he tore his ACL.
Yeah.
In the championship game, I think it's been a while. Then obviously work in Buffalo, and then he goes to Seattle and fucking kills it for 4 years, 4 or 5 years. Sony Michel. Show favorite, in quotes. Yeah. Sony Michel. Nothing really materialized from this. You can blame the O-line with their injuries and just a lack of efficiency. But like Johnson, his efficiency dipped all around. He actually played all 16 games and finished with less rushing yards, than his rookie season. The only positive to Michel entering 2020 is it should be his job still. They still have White and Burkhead on contract. They obviously still have Damian Harris, but as of right now, he's still the starter. So opportunity is still there. But I've fallen to where you and Nick are on him. I don't want any piece of Sony Michel.
Yep. Rex, yeah, and you're right. Rex Burkhead's still under contract. Damian Harris, a draft pick that was injured for part of last year. James White, still going to be heavily involved in this offense. Sonny Michel, he is not what you thought he was.
He needs a role change. He needs a role change somewhere.
He needs a role change. He needs to show the efficiency. He needs to do something because he's in real danger of becoming just another guy. And just another guy in a multi-headed Patriots backfield that you don't necessarily want to touch. So, sell if you can. I'm not a big believer that the upside's really gonna be there that much. So yeah, if you can sell him for me.
We'll move on to the other first round pick that's disappointing by first round, maybe by actual first round pick in the NFL draft. Rashad Penny. Just like with Geis, he's been plagued with injuries. Only missed 10 games, but he just tore his ACL and is likely going to miss, if not miss the entire 2020 season. His issue, I think, is bigger though. Seattle is a perennial playoff team. They're almost a Super Bowl contender almost every year because of Russell Wilson, their ability to refix their defense, and then to put more weapons around Wilson, including bringing back or getting DK Metcalf and getting back Will Disley with Tyler Lockett, and they have a very serviceable starter in front of Rashad Penny and Chris Carson. It wouldn't surprise me if Seattle looks for another running back either this year or next year. To me, Penny's time is probably, I won't say it's up in Seattle, but I think you're kind of hoping he lands into a situation where he can be the clear back, and I'm not sure that's going to happen.
I don't know if it'll happen, but I'm weirdly still fine with Rashad Penny as a third or fourth running back in a roster. Is a guy that you can plug in for a flex when it's a plus matchup or even when he is healthy. And that may be his role. He's in a run-heavy offense, and again, a team that's typically pretty good and that has shown the ability to run the football. I don't think, even if I'm with you, even if Chris Carson walks, I don't think they don't insulate it with somebody else. But I do think this is a situation where Rashad Penny probably does have flex value year in and year out, and I'm okay with him. Pretty much whatever you do with Penny right now is going to be at value. I don't think that there's a real case to buy low on him. I don't think there's a real case to sell high on him. I just think it is what it is, and whatever you move is just going to be face value with Penny. I don't really have strong opinions one way or another. I think the role that he's in satisfies me because I didn't like him coming in, and he's not a superstar, but he's been serviceable.
I actually wouldn't mind going after to the owner and seeing where he feels about it. He was a top 5, pick in 2018 in single QB and top 7 in Superflex.
Gross.
And he's had 2 years where it just hasn't been put together because of injury. And it's not like he's been bad from an efficiency standpoint. He's been completely fine in that regard. So if he can stay healthy and he can kind of get lucky with Seattle not bringing people in a la Damian Williams' way into a role again, maybe he could be worth more than what you have to pay for him. I wouldn't say don't sniff, but go out there and see how the owner feels about him. Ronald Jones. He went from super bust in 2018 to being a headache in 19. But he at least has some upside. Obviously, clear-cut red flags here moving forward with Tampa Bay being a hot topic or a hot landing spot for not only these high draft pick running backs, but free agents. He couldn't beat out Peyton Barber, the biggest just a guy running back in the NFL we've ever seen. So how do you feel about Ronald Jones right now?
Like there's some upside there, and it might be a possible flex value type of upside play going into next season. But again, it's a pass first offense. It's never going to be run heavy. I think I like the way that he progressed. I think if he continues to progress, he could be a surprise next year. But I don't necessarily want to slide my token to Ronald Jones being a breakout candidate. So, with him being the dynasty running back 37, I think that's absolutely fine. I think you can make a case if you believe in it to go a little bit higher. He did come out of the draft process injured that season. It kind of got a slow start into training camp where it really didn't materialize, and kind of a shit show of an offense. And you saw a lot more of him with Arians, and I think Arians likes him. So we'll have to see what Ronald Jones is capable of. He's a mid-round running back in redraft. He's not quite the same dart throw as a guy like Geis is. Not quite as solidified, and he is what he is what Penny is, though. I think there's still some volatility to Jones to where, look, if you get him low, then you're fine with it because you're not really giving up anything for him at this point, and it's just all gravy from there.
Yeah, for me is if he can somehow come out of this draft and free agent process unscathed, and that means Tampa Bay not bringing in a running back at all, at least not spending a significant draft capital or cap dollars on a running back. I don't see it happening. But again, we've seen it before. We all expected Kansas City to do it last year, and they didn't. And we're playing that game again with Damian Williams this year, and I feel like we could be doing that again with Ronald Jones, as maybe Tampa Bay decides not to invest any more capital, into their running backs. Moving on, we'll do Royce and Phillip here, as I said, on their own, or not on their own, but as together. Phillip Lindsay, RB23, Royce Freeman, RB31. Lindsay has been the clear-cut better running back in their first 2 seasons. He's the first UDFA to post back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. 10 rushing touchdowns his first one, or 10 total touchdowns his first season. 7 touchdowns this year. Royce has not been so lucky. Only 1,000 yards combined in his first 2 seasons. But their roles have kind of, if you look at their size in terms of, or if you look at their BMI or their build, you would think that Freeman would be the first and second down grinder, and Lindsay would be the more change of pace satellite back plus. That really isn't the case. Phillip is still the first, second down guy. Royce was a far better pass catcher last year. He had 2 more targets, and I think in a couple less games. How do you feel about these 2 guys? There's been rumors about potential run blocking scheme change. I've heard that on a couple podcasts with Matt Kelly, and those guys. I can't find any information on that being true. Again, this is just rumors. But how do you feel about the pair of the Broncos running backs?
Well, they brought in Shermer. So
that's right, they did, didn't they?
So I like the pair because, look, what have we seen out of Shermer before?
Ooh. Latavius Murray and Jarrett McKinnon.
Yep.
With Minnesota.
Guess what you got here?
Reverse role.
Almost, but I think if you scheme it right, Freeman could be more between the tackles and Lindsay more McKinnon-like. Either way, look, Royce Freeman is a guy I was too high on the draft process to be completely out on him at this point. I think you got to give it one more season. I think it's a defensive coordinator as a head coach, which typically means they're going to want to run first. Not that they haven't done that. You've got Drew Lock, who I think is going to be a good quarterback in this league that can open some of that up. You got Pat Shermer coming in, who we know can scheme a run, and I think he'll be able to use Royce Freeman to the best of his ability. Phillip Lindsay isn't going anywhere, but I do. So Lindsay's probably at his ceiling with Freeman kind of being so-so. But I do think you see some ascension out of Royce Freeman. He is a buy at a Rashad Penny current level, if that makes sense.
He is a huge buy for me. One Phillip Lindsay injury or kind of just nick up where he has to miss a game or he comes out out of a game really early, it could really unlock Royce.
Right.
And just the fact that he's, he is a true, he has a 3-down back skill set. His issue is he doesn't have that true burst right away. He seems he comes off slow, but the guy can do it all. Just look at his player profile, or you can see that.
He's kind of what everybody wanted Kalen Ballage to be in the oversized satellite back sense.
Well, Ballage was, super size adjusted speed. Royce is Like Royce is kind of like Le'Veon Bell, where he's not ultra
He
athletic.
runs like him too.
And yeah, Royce runs hard. He can come at it with the whole. He has a lot of wear in his tires because of
Very
all the
patient,
touches.
good vision.
Yeah,
So,
and if a rumor stated that they were gonna use what Pittsburgh used as their run blocking scheme during the Le'Veon Bell days. So I'm buying Royce. I think you can get him for relatively cheap than what you paid for him in the draft. And I think you can find some success, especially if Philip Lindsay either gets hurt or trends downward even slightly.
right.
Rest of the running backs, I don't have any notes because I don't want to spend a lot of time on them. Any running backs on here: Jalen Samuels, Naeem Hines, Edo Smith, Justin Jackson. I put Kalen Balazs because it's fun. Gus Edwards, Bull Scarborough, Jordan Wilkins, Daryl Williams, John Kelly. They're all running backs that either we loved, John Kelly, or at least have produced someone in the NFL.
These are running backs we had strong feelings on anyway.
Yeah.
Justin Jackson jumps out as a guy that when he's been given the opportunities has looked good doing it. And with the uncertainty of Melvin Gordon there's always going to be Austin Eckler. But if you slide those roles up, you could see some value out of Justin Jackson coming. Joe Scarborough is the other name that jumps out. Watch him in this free agency thing because we know what he did with the Lions late last year and how he was able to kind of to put together some good games and some fantasy relevant games. So if he lands in a spot that's competition or where he has a chance to see some volume, he's a guy you want to have on your roster. And if you're in a dynasty league that doesn't lock rosters and he's floating around out there as a potential offseason pickup, maybe just stash him because and see what happens with Bo Scarborough because he did show with Detroit late last year that he can produce as a grinder, I guess. So see what happens there. And then John Kelly with some uncertainty around Todd Gurley. We haven't really seen anything out of him, but just remember the talent. Those are the guys that I think were worth highlighting.
Daryl Williams, if Kansas City doesn't bring in a running back or doesn't spend any draft capital, most people are anticipating a day 2 pick. And that'll be the killer of all the running back dreams on this roster. But if that doesn't happen, Daryl Williams is a backup to Damian. I don't have an issue with as just a stash. He's probably free in dynasty leagues, and he'll likely be free in redraft depending on what happens with the actual draft and free agency. Again, productive in an Andy Reid led running back offense. So,
yep.
That's the only highlights I want to make. Let's jump to a beer review.
Yeah, definitely need that because I'm almost out.
I talk a lot more, so I don't get the drink.
Beer review.
No, you know how this works, right? You're running the segment, so
Yeah.
you get to kick it to me first.
Chris, what did you think about your variant of significant from Buckle Down?
All right, so this review changes a lot with flavors. When it is cold and really in the kind of that prime stout area, it picks up some good flavor. The colder it is, the more it just tastes like the traditional variant, which has a lot of cocoa and chocolate notes to it anyway. It starts to warm up, you get more of the chocolate out of it. It becomes a little bit more chocolate heavy, and I believe there's vanilla in this as well. I don't know. I left Lindsay with what was left in the can. But you can definitely taste a little bit of that sweetness. I don't know if it's coming from the barrel aging of the bourbon or if it's coming from the fact that there's vanilla added to this, but you get a little bit of marshmallow taste with it, almost like a dark chocolate dip marshmallow, if you will. As it warms up, it thins out, so there definitely is a sweet spot for the flavor of this one, and it is about 10 to 15 minutes out of the fridge. When it's been sitting for an hour out of the fridge, it starts to thin out, and the complexity of the flavors start to kind of dissipate from it. Overall, though, you're drinking at the right temperature. Very, very good beer. The cocoa definitely adds something to this without taking away from the fact that just base Buckle Down is one of the best barrel-aged stouts that I've ever had.
I agree. I need to have more of it in my life. I drank just a reminder, cherry pie from the brewery. This is part of their bakery series, dessert styles and pastries. This is a imperial stout with cherry, cinnamon, and natural vanilla flavors to it. Like with you, the temperature changed the beer a fair bit. When first poured, it the cherries and cinnamon stood out a lot more, and not in a in that cop syrup way, which is why I get really nervous with cherries and beer. A lot of them will give off that cop syrupy taste, and I try to stay away from it. Um, being that this is a 10.2% beer, the barrel isn't going to be strong, but as the beer warms up, the barrel, at least on the nose, the alcohol smell really stands out more. So the taste isn't there. I wasn't expecting it at just a 10.2%. The cherries tend to fade off a little bit when the beer warms up. The cinnamon is going to stick around for the most of it. I don't get a whole lot of vanilla, but if it's a natural vanilla flavor, I wasn't expecting a lot of vanilla on it anyways. This is supposed to be mainly just a compliment to what is being done with this. It does stick to what the beer is actually going for, and that's the taste of a cherry pie. It does give that off. It does stick to what it wants to do. I would prefer to drink this beer probably lower than what they recommend at 47 degrees. I would stick to what it was coming out of the fridge at a little bit lower temperature. But it's definitely not the worst thing I had from them. I definitely had some things that I wish I didn't have. But this is one of the better cherry stout beers that I've had. So kudos to that.
All right.
Wanted to sip. All right. Moving on to receivers. We'll try to speed this up as we're getting late into the night and we both have to work in the morning. I had a fun time with these receivers and trying to figure out how to break them down. I thought I would have more tiers to talk about. I just have 3 and they're really just top heavy. So we'll start out with the ones that have shown a lot in their first 2 seasons. As DJ Moore at wide receiver 11, Courtland Sutton at wide receiver 15, Calvin Ridley at wide receiver 20, DJ Chark at 21, Christian Kirk at 24, and Michael Gallup at 25. Just off of rankings alone, does anything stick out to you or jump out to you as being good or bad?
DJ Moore's that high? I love DJ Moore, and I think he's going to be great. I just didn't expect him to be at 11 that quick. But 130 targets, 1,100 yards, and touchdowns a little low, but on an offense that really faded as the season went on. Look, he's developed into the one there. They've got some questions at quarterback, which is why I think 11 might be a little high for him. It doesn't have a lot to do with him so much as the direction the team might be headed. If you're a wide receiver, you kind of need a quarterback to get you the ball in order to be successful. But DJ Moore is very, very good, and I don't doubt that. It's between him and Courtland Sutton right now for what could be the most talented wide receiver in this class. And I think it's probably a toss-up at the moment. It's going to play out for years to come. Or maybe it's an AJ Green, Julio Jones thing to where they're both just really good or at least pretty close to equal. But either way, 11's a little surprising to me. Not because I don't think you can make the case for it, just because of some of the other turmoil that could be happening in Carolina and the touchdown numbers being a little low. But DJ Moore's a very, very good wide receiver, and I'm completely okay with this. He's going to be one for a bit.
Oh yeah, for sure. I have no issue at wide receiver 11, so we'll just jump into the wide receiver talk here. He finished as wide receiver 18 in 2019, over 130 targets, over 1,100 yards. Again, as you mentioned, just 4 touchdowns. Touchdowns are a product of the offense and the fact that CMC stole, I think, like 60% of them. I feel like if they scored, it was CMC. It sounds like Carolina is desperately trying to improve the quarterback situation. DJ Moore did the majority of his damage with Kyle fucking Allen. At quarterback, Cam Newton played 2 games to start the season, was hurt, and then Will Grier came in when they finally benched Kyle Allen, and just how bad Will Grier was, just really highlighted that. There's not much else to say about Moore. I think he's ranked this high because of he's young, and the other receivers around him are reaching that age or just hasn't flashed the world the massive talent that he's been able to to showcase, given the true lack of elite quarterback play from his quarterbacks his first 2 years. Courtland Sutton, wide receiver 19 in 2019. Like DJ Moore, he took a massive step in year 2. Over 120 targets, 70 catches, 1,100 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Like DJ Moore, he also did it with a bunch of meh quarterbacks. Joe Flacco, Brandon Allen. We like Drew Lock. You have always liked them. I've come on board a little bit more. I like the fact that they have their quarterback figured out, at least entering 2020. I don't see it being a competition with Joe Flacco and Drew Lock. I think Drew Lock starts the year. Sutton's my favorite buy of all these receivers in this class. Any thoughts on Sutton?
It's definitely a buy. I think the efficiency can tighten up a bit between that 120 and 70. I think with a full season with Drew Lock and the chemistry that they were able to show there, he definitely, again, could progress. You're going to get a little bit more out of the running game as well. So you tighten up that efficiency. He's a buy yet because I don't think he is a buy because I don't think he's at the top of what you're going to get out of Cortland Sutton. I do think that he has a chance to be the 1A in this class, with more eventually being the 2B. So I like this rank at 15, and I agree with you that he's still a buy, even though the price might be starting to true up.
Yeah, I think the price is kind of where we like. I want it to be lower so I can get him a little bit cheaper. Calvin Ridley, I think, is the least talked about receiver that could again produce. He's kind of been the same receiver his first two seasons. Obviously, his rookie year, all of his touchdowns came within a few games. This past year, he was far more consistent. No games over one touchdown, but I think he had 7 or 8 games with a touchdown, which is what you want from a wide receiver 2 on his own team. And again, Atlanta led the league in passing plays per game. If they trade Devonta Freeman, I don't expect that to change. I don't expect it to change even if they keep Freeman. The defense, for some reason, can't seem to stay healthy, and they end up falling behind, and they play in the NFC South, which is one of the toughest offenses in football. Really has just been that consistency, though. It's someone who was high in him really early on in the draft process, fell out of him after the combine. He did land in the perfect spot, complimenting Julio Jones. Julio Jones is I think is 31 years old. He's on that cliff, ready to fall off here. But do you have any feelings about Calvin Ridley? I do think he's the least talked about receiver for some reason in this class.
Well, I think he's the least talked about receiver because I think he is what he is at this point. It's kind of like, I don't see a lot more upside out of Ridley, so much as I see him kind of settling into this kind of nice wide receiver 2, and he's going to be a wide receiver 2, and Julio moves on, somebody else is going to be the 1, but he's still going to be that nice type of complementary type of receiver. But I do think there's a scenario where his value goes up and elevates him from that 25 he finished at into the mid-teens, and I think that scenario is the Falcons not re-signing free agent Austin Hooper.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've never thought that Ridley was going to be, like, he doesn't have, I think, the build to be a prototype number 1. We've always thought he was a good complimentary guy.
He's going to be a good complimentary guy, though.
Yeah. And I think if he reaches those teens and he starts to sniff the wide receiver 1 territory, that point he'd probably be a sell. But I do agree with you. I think we kind of know what we have from Ridley. I think he's a wide receiver 2. As his floor and even as his ceiling, I think when you get him in redrafts, you should know what you're getting from him already. As this, potentially decent floor because of a high passing volume on a team that doesn't seem to throw a lot of passing touchdowns.
Yeah. No, and it's just like I said, the path to Ridley taking the next step is really that over the middle intermediate target volume that Austin Hooper also gets landing elsewhere in free agency.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that he has necessarily the ceiling to elevate his game to the level that maybe a Cortland Sutton still does, or the quarterback problems in the offense around him to elevate his game like a DJ Moore does. I just think that he is what he is, and this is what he's going to be. It is a very, very solid, very, very consistent wide receiver 2 type of player.
Yep. Moving on to my second favorite buy, and that's DJ Chark. Wide receiver 16 and 19. He came out blazing with 5 touchdowns in his first 5 games. Also 2 games over 125 receiving yards. When Jacksonville started to fuck around with their quarterback situation, when Minshew kind of, I guess, fell back down to his floor, Chark became a little bit more boom busty. But I like Chark's got the build that you want from a wide receiver. 6'3", 199 speedster. The guy just kills it downfield. I want to see how he develops in a run first offense, but as the Jaguars defense starts to go into their own rebuild, the offense should be elevated with this passing attempts. So I'm excited about DJ Chark. We weren't that high on him coming out of there. Maybe that's the product of LSU, the fact that they seem to underutilize their receivers. But how do you feel about DJ Chark here coming into 2020?
He's fine. I mean, I'm not necessarily excited about DJ Chark because of the way that the things kind of fell off with the quarterback carousel and everything else. The fact of DJ Chark is he's not a guy that we had majorly high coming into the draft based on talent or anything else. So that scares me a little bit for a potential, type of fall off, like a flash in the pan type of guy. So I'm not running out to buy him at the price he may be at right now. I think he's more of in that hold area for me and see what happens. I don't want to say he's a sell because there's a scenario where it could work out the way that you say it does.
Yeah.
But I think he's more kind of that hold. But, if I were leaning one way or the other, I might even be a little bit more towards a sell on DJ Chark. Just
okay.
Not that I don't like him and I don't want him to succeed. I like Jacksonville. Chark was fun to watch and everything. I'm just not as sold on what he's been able to do as real yet, just because it was so concentrated at the beginning of the season. But you can't discount the fact that yes, other things were going around. That's why I called it more of a hold than anything.
For sure. All right, last two here in this tier: Christian Kirk, Michael Gallup. Both play in this high octane, this high up tempo offense. Kurt obviously with Carol or with the Cardinals. I think they second most plays per game, or at least plays per minute or whatever that it is. We obviously know what we're going to get from the Cardinals. Fitz coming back kind of hurts that potentially. Rumors that the Cardinals want to draft another receiver, one of these elite receivers like a Judy or like a Lamb. With Kurt, it's been a little bit of injuries here. He had back-to-back foot injuries. He hasn't played in 7 games, started his first 2 years. We've seen his upside. He had a 3-touchdown game this year. With Cliff's offense, we get really excited because of that pace of play. But there's so much uncertainty with his wide receiver core. We both thought that Kurt's more of a number 2 in an offense than a number 1. I think Kurt is kind of a Calvin Ridley light at this point. How do you feel about Christian Kirk?
He's a Calvin Ridley light, but at the same time, with the offense that he's in, running more that spread style with his yards after the catch ability, because he is more athletic than what Ridley is. I tend to like him even the upside he has a little bit more. To me, where you said DJ Chark is kind of a buy, I think Christian Kirk's a bit of a buy. He was with a quarterback and a head coach / offensive coordinator in their first year in the league. The bottom didn't fall out of it. We knew that there would be some growing pains for that, but with the volume that team was running and the bottom not completely falling out of it, we saw how explosive that offense could be, and I think it only does get better as it goes forward. I don't think we've seen the best that team is going to be yet. So Christian Kirk to me is a little bit of a buy at the moment. If Chark is on the hold edge of sell, Kirk is on the buy edge of hold.
Okay. I have no issue with that. I think if you can I think Kurt's value is right around that the same. I think it hasn't really changed much. I think people anticipated high passing. Well, I made 108 targets and he missed I think 3 games this year. So I have no issue with Christian Kirk as being a buy, especially with how much talk is coming into this class. You can probably get it for cheaper than you expected. Last one, Michael Gallup, wide receiver 25, who's a wide receiver 2. As a wide receiver 22 in 2019, we saw him flourish as a wide receiver 2 alongside Amari Cooper. Rumor is that Dallas may or may not bring back Cooper. They have a lot of holes they have to fill. This is why you don't, give your running back a shit ton of fucking money. But Gallup was fantastic this year. his 16 game average when Cooper has arrived, just shy of 100 targets, just shy of 1,000 yards. He is, again, unlike a Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk, where he's a great number two. There are drop issues, 11 drops this year. We want to see his cut rates rise. For some reason, he was so dominant when you play for Colorado State, and maybe that's why it's because of that. But I want to see his efficiency rise. His true catch rate of 71.7% was 102nd in the league, was bad. But we love Michael Gallup here. I don't know if he's a true buy because I think his value set to where it is. How do you feel about Michael Gallup right now?
Again, I lean a little bit towards buy here. We liked Michael Gallup, and you mentioned what he was in Colorado State, and the fact is that he had good route running, he had good positioning. He wasn't an otherworldly athlete, but he had the nuances down, and it was advanced, kind of like in the way that Cooper Kupp was advanced when he came into the league. It took a year longer for Michael Gallup to show value, but is he a one? I don't know. I think he can win as a one, but ultimately, I think he is better suited in that ancillary wide receiver 2 type of position that could be a volume type of possession guy. You mentioned the drops. That needs to true up a bit. 59.9% is a catch rate. That's not the worst we've ever seen by any means. It's on the low end. You figure average is usually in the 62 to 65% range. So, it's low, but it's not that far off. So, I do see a scenario where that improves and, where we could see him kind of around the new style wide receiver 2, which is 100 targets and, 1,000 yards and 5 or 6 touchdowns. And so, so for that, I think he's a buy because I think the value does go up. Just, you got to buy at the right price. You can't buy him at a premium. You got to buy him to be the second or third wide receiver on your team.
Yeah, I think his value set to where it is right now. I think there is some upside. He could be the one, just where Dallas is. But I think he's fine at the 25 spot. I think you have to buy him as a number 2, not as his number 1 on a team. Yep.
And next, the bottom falls out of this class now, so we can probably run through these guys as a group. Just looking at it.
I split up these next tier guys because I have at least shown something. Anthony Miller, wide receiver 46, James Washington 54, Traquan Smith, MVS, Dante Pettis, Auden Tate, Alan Lazard. Any names you wanna talk about here?
Sure. Anthony Miller, if the offense can ever get right, we've seen some positive flashes out of him. James Washington, you mentioned big steps forward, and that's exactly it. I think that Pittsburgh offense, once they get Ben back, I think James Washington could still be poised for a breakout. He's probably my favorite person in this list next to Alan Lazard, who, like you said, came on late in the season after bouncing around. I think he's found a home in Green Bay. I think he's going to have a chance, and he outpaced the aforementioned Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who was supposed to take that role. Geronimo Allison, Equanimous St. Brown is an undrafted guy who's bounced around teams. I think he's found a place that he's going to stick and can actually progress and grow. He's a big body that we thought was very, very good coming in. And, other than that, Dante Pettis, Shanahan wants him to come in beefed up with more motivation. He's going to need to change his scenery before it goes anywhere. I'm done with Traquan Smith. I'm done with Valdez-Scantling, and I never was on Auden Tate.
Yeah, I have. It's as much as I love Traquan. Obviously, it didn't pan out. At least it's not yet in New Orleans, and he's had, like with MVS, hit a golden opportunity, and with Dante Pettis, hit a golden opportunity that he failed to capitalize on. Lazard, there's intrigue if Green Bay doesn't do what everybody thinks they will, and that's bring in another receiver.
They lost Graham, back a roster stash for Lazard.
Yeah, I think Lazard is definitely worth a stash. Just don't buy into the way that we bought into MVS. So that we didn't.
The community.
But as the community as a whole,
I bought into MVS. I won't lie.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were a little more reserved on it. Than compared to most people. James Washington, if he can, find a way out of that shithole or that mess surrounding that receiving core behind Juju, Miller, I think, will be tough if Chicago's offense can't get their shit together. Last 4 receivers I put down: Deshaun Hamilton, Traquan Smith, Deion Kane, Justin Watson. Anything here on these guys?
Traquan needs to stay healthy, and I think could have some volume going his way. Deion Kane.
I know you liked him, so I'll put him back on here.
Yeah, Deion Kane, I think with the Colts, the Colts are still a very, very interesting situation where they're
Well, he's with Pittsburgh now.
Oh, is he in Pittsburgh now?
Yeah,
I forgot about that. He is in Pittsburgh now. Meh. I think James Washington and Juju are the future there. Justin Watson had some chances, flashed a bit, high volume, but with Evans and Godwin there isn't a shot.
If they can retain, Jameis Winston, I think there's so much volume there. Potentially, I have no issue buying Justin Watson. I think he might be more than what people wanted it to be because of my favorites, Matt Kelly, really, really pumping him up. I think Deshaun's done. Traquan is going to be a product of a receiving core trying to rebuild his core that we saw.
Deshaun, I'm done with after last season. He had every chance to capitalize on something and didn't.
Yeah, I think Quinn, a lot like Kane, I think they're just going to be a product of an offense and a receiving core trying to rebuild. Not so much Kane with Pittsburgh, but especially with Quinn with Washington.
Yeah.
Moving on, tight ends here.
Go
ahead.
Almost done. Tight ends. Let's go.
Yeah, almost done. We're gonna make this quick here. This is really easily to split. The top 3 tight ends were the top people we talked about in 18. Mark Andrews, tight end 4. Dallas Goedert, tight end 9. Mike Gesicki, tight end 15. We saw the breakout on Mark Andrews, finishes tight end 2 in 2019. I think he should be ahead of Zach Ertz, just because of age and where he's headed to and where Zach Ertz could be headed from. And the fact that that Andrews was able to do it in a low passing volume offense. Obviously, I would like to see Andrews see a little bit more snaps, but the guy just gets targets. When he's on the field, he gets targets, and that's what the hog rate is. He finished first in that category amongst all tight ends. Get him more snaps, see those fantasy points start to flourish. Any thoughts on, how do you feel about Mark Andrews coming into 2020?
He's going to be a star. He's in that top tier tight ends. So, if he's not in the top tier, he's in that second, almost there, Evan Ingram tier that we normally have. So, and leading that one. So, yeah, he's a starter. He's an every week starter, and he's consistent productivity out of the tight end position.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think he's part of the Kittle Kelsey tier, but he could be if Baltimore's passing offense does increase. Dallas Goedert, tight end 9. He has 600 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns, playing second fiddle to Zach Ertz. The out with Ertz for Philadelphia probably won't come till next year, and it probably won't happen until his contract is up. Just with how they have it set up, I don't know if it's going to happen as of recently. So Goddard may be a little bit of a late bloomer, but we've seen that happen a lot with guys like Greg Olsen. So I love me some Dallas Goedert. I want to try to buy him at some point this year in leagues I don't have him in, just because you can still get him for cheap when Zach Ertz is still the tight end.
Might be the last chance you have to buy him on the cheap before he ascends to, top 6 consistent week in, week out status. So
yeah, it's 5 year, 5th in yards after the catch as a backup tight end and 8 red zone targets. Granted, the lack of receivers here helps with that towards the end of the year, but we love Goddard coming into this class as one of the most complete tight ends coming out. Like I said, and just like you said, his buy window is probably closing more so than opening. But you need to take advantage of that right now, while it's still relatively cheap. Mike Gesicki is the last one of here. Obviously, the most athletic tight end. He might be the most athletic tight end in the NFL, just based on what he put up with the combine last year. But he even posted a sneaky tight end 1 season. He finishes a tight end 12, had 89 targets, 51 catches, 570 yards, and 5 touchdowns. He did this in one of the worst offenses in football. Super athletic tight ends that are coming into their third year. in an offense that's starting to turn the corner. I want Mike Gesicki. I think he is the prime year 3 breakout tight end.
He was our top tight end in this class. We loved Mark Andrews to be consistent. Mark Andrews got there first. I still like the talent of Gesicki more than anybody else in this group.
Yeah, give me all the Mike Gesicki, and he's going to cost far cheaper than both Goddard and Andrews at this point. So he needs to be your top priority buy.
Yeah, there's going to be
from his class.
Just looking at this, I don't think the tight ends are going to be a cesspool here. Maybe as soon as next season, but definitely probably by year 3. I mean, the class coming in doesn't have a whole lot there, but I really think that this group right here that we're talking about, just looking at the names here, it is going to add a lot more depth to the tight end class, because there's nobody I'm looking at here that I don't necessarily see being, productive or in the future jumping up into a tier of consistency.
Yeah. I don't know. I these top 3 I love. You look beyond that: Chris Herndon, Will Dissly, Ian Thomas. I'm sure there's more to it, but these are the 3 that stand out beyond the top 3. We like Herndon coming into this last season, but with injuries, suspension, I've fallen off that train a little bit.
I'm not off the train from a suspension and a hamstring injury on Herndon. I think he's still poised for a breakout.
Okay. Dissly, we both love here. Tight end 5 before he got hurt. The road to recovery and the future. If he can, he came back from one terrible foot injury. It's going to be tough to come back from 2. I think he's a buy though. This offense in Seattle loves to use his tight ends.
He's a buyer at bare minimum a hold. They love to use their tight ends. He showed that he could be good at it. He was already a good blocker coming in, and he showed that he can be a good pass catcher. So I think he's a guy that's not going to come off the field a whole lot and is going to have passing game productivity. And now that perennial all-star Nick Vannett is not in front of him, he should be fine.
That's right. Lastly, we have Ian Thomas. Obviously, Greg Olson's finally out of Carolina. This should be poised for the Ian Thomas show. As Flash, given his chances, his very minimal chances that he's had, he's flashed and he's obviously very athletic. Just like with DJ Moore, though, the uncertainty at quarterback makes him this lower. But I don't know how you feel, but I love Ian Thomas coming into this year.
I've always been a big fan of Ian Thomas. Super athletic. Him and Johnny Smith have been very, very close to the same player for me. As guys that were brought in to be obvious heir apparents. We're going to sit, develop, and when they hit, they're going to hit the ground running. They're going to hit fast, and they're going to be productive. Ian Thomas has been productive in the absence of Greg Olson, and it's now his job. Definite buy ahead of the season, because it's the last chance you're going to have to get a value on him.
I agree. 1,000% agree. That's it. That's the 18. This got on a lot longer, I think we both expected.
It is a super deep class.
But this was a far deeper class than we expected. Running backs not so much as we expected, but the receivers stuck out. Tight ends was always going to be deep, and quarterbacks are always going to be deep. So that's it. That's the 18 class for this year. Look back.
All right, that's all we got. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for listening to the really long episode. And we'll be back next Wednesday. See ya.
See ya.
Or sometime next week. I shouldn't say Wednesday. I don't actually know what my life looks like.
We'll be back at some point next week.
Some point next week we'll be here. Bye.
Yep.